Is this in GitHub? Is this in Trac? Where is the most effective place for people to air their grievances?
It is both. And so it depends on what the grievance is. And, I would say this is more so right now about solving, kind of the more recently introduced friction rather than things that may have been issues for a longer time. Everyone kind of has their own little pet. I really wish WordPress would fix this one, thing. For instance, I am always frustrated by custom post statuses don't have the full support that, to really work well. Now is not the time to be fixing custom post statuses. Now is the time to be fixing problems that were introduced in 6.8.
Hey everybody, it's Roger with Kensta. I'm joined by my good friend Aaron. Hey Aaron, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent, excellent. You're still in Minneapolis, I believe, correct? All right, how's the weather up there?
Weather was a little cold, but it is starting to heat up, and I think it's supposed to be getting pretty hot this weekend.
Okay, yeah. No middle grounds. It's got to be extremes all the time.
Yep.
Excellent. So it's been about a month since we last talked. There's a new sub-release coming out. Do we want to talk a little bit about what's going on with WordPress?
Yeah, so we are going to we just started work on WordPress 6.8.2. We got a great group of 3 people that have lined up to lead this release, and a number of people supporting them, including myself, and targeting middle of July, I think July 15th for the release.
Excellent. All right, so a little bit less than a month to work on this. What are the highlights of this release?
So this is going to be another bug fix release. And so, the focus of it is on providing a stable platform for people to build off. And 8 came out and had a lot of great issues, caused a couple of bugs. And 6.8.1 fixed, the highest priority ones of them, but there's still a couple more. Some people have continued testing and found some more edge cases. And so, going to be aiming to fix as many issues as we can to just provide that stable platform for people to use.
Excellent. Okay, so when it comes to selecting bugs, what is your criteria for choosing which ones to work on?
So a lot of it is, the question of how much does this affect people? And by people, I'm thinking about the end users, people visiting websites. I'm thinking about content creators that are in there, in the admin of WordPress. I'm thinking about extenders of WordPress, plugin authors and consultants that are building sites for people, and trying just to get a sense of what is the impact? Is this something that is there's no way to work around it? Okay, well, that's a higher priority. Well, actually, this is just one edge case that actually it took us years to find. Well, that's going to be a little bit lower of a priority to work on. And so it's about, how much and how many people are impacted, and, can they even work around it?
Okay. All right. And when it comes to gauging that, I'm guessing, there's the ability you look at a bug and you can immediately sometimes see, okay, wow, this is an immediate impact. Is there ever the case where you're getting complaints from more people? Does the volume of complaint factor into this?
Volume can definitely factor into this. And, people saying, sharing their experiences can be extremely helpful. I would say to a point. It gets to be, once 20 people are saying, me too, me too, me too, it's no longer adding signal. It's not adding additional information to help resolve it.
Okay.
And so, if you're seeing kind of that piling on, maybe don't pile on. But if you're seeing, this isn't getting any movement, that's a good time to add your experience and share, how you think why you think it needs to be solved sooner.
Okay, all right. And so painting the complete picture here, is this in GitHub? Is this in Trac? Where is the most effective place for people to air their grievances?
It is both. And so it depends on what the grievance is. And, I would say this is more so right now about solving, kind of the more recently introduced friction rather than things that may have been issues for a longer time.
Okay.
And there's things like that. I think everyone kind of has their own little pet. I really wish WordPress would fix this one, thing. There are, for instance, I am always frustrated by like custom post statuses don't have the full support that, to really work well. Now is not the time to be fixing custom post statuses. Now is the time to be fixing problems that were fixed or that were introduced in 6.8.
Okay, all right. Are there any specific bugs that you've kind of got at top of mind that you'd love maybe you get more developers looking at, maybe more testers working on?
As of now, there's no specific ones. We have about 20 bugs that have been identified that we're going to target. There's also a number of that's on Trac, and on the GitHub side, I think it's about 15 or so that aiming to target. And so all of those are open game. Additionally, if someone has a one that they want to speak up about, two great ways to do that. One, there is a post on Make Core that outlines the schedule for 6.8, and so dropping a link there, the issue, and then also there's going to be a number of bug scrubs. I think there's 5 initial ones being set up, and those are also announced on Make Core, and those are at variety of times and variety of days. So hopefully ones that everyone can find something that works for them.
Excellent. All right. So, as we're working through this bug process, so you've identified the bugs. Okay, enough airing of the grievances, people. Here's the work we're going to work on. What is, for somebody, let's say somebody is a developer, they know what they're doing, but they haven't really contributed much. What is like a good approach for them to bring coming into this type of release?
So a good one is testing what works for them right now. And so getting a staging site set up, I know lots of hosts have, one-click staging sites, using those, installing, there's a beta tester plugin, and so you can opt into getting the newest beta, there's what's known as a nightly release. And so every night a version of 6.8 that's, will be available, and testing that and seeing, does my normal process just still work? Is anything broken? If you are doing, say, backups, are backups still getting uploaded like they should? If not, that signifies there could be a problem and needs to be looked into.
Excellent. Excellent. When it comes to communicating and talking, you've mentioned the Make blog. We've talked about Trac. We've talked about GitHub. Where does the Make Slack, WordPress Slack fit into this whole process?
So, in some ways, it's about, Make Slack is kind of that immediate discussion platform. Make, Trac is kind of that medium term. You're focused on a specific issue. And then Make WordPress.org is kind of that longer term that's going to be there forever. Trac will also be there forever. The archive of Slack will be there forever. But kind of that, shorter term, medium term, longer term discussion.
Excellent, excellent. If there was a magic wand you could have for testers and developers who are helping out with the project, and you could just magically kind of maybe fix, not necessarily fix, but improve how people interact in this project, what would that look like? What would that be?
I would love if everyone tested the release candidates. It is impossible for everyone to automate all of the different combinations of WordPress that can exist. There are how many tens of thousands of plugins, and that's just the publicly available ones, not even counting all of the individual ones. So if you think about if every site has 3 different plugins, and we know many sites have way more than 3, but just 3, we're now looking at trillions of combinations. That's not something that we can do on our own. We need the help of our wonderful community in order to test that.
Okay, and so just to kind of, recap and spell that out. So create a staging site, install the beta testing plugin, then you can switch to nightly builds. You'll get the most recent build, and then just do what you do with your website. Create posts, edit posts, make all the different types of updates that you do. What else am I missing there that people should be doing to test?
That's one type of test. Another great way is if you are setting up sites for other people, going in and testing that. Doing okay, if I am going to be setting up a site, can I still install themes like I expect to install themes? Can I, upload plugins the way I expect to upload plugins? And testing each of those pieces.
Okay. And based on the bugs that you're seeing right now, I recall something with 6.8. There was some issues with translations or things along those lines. Not sure exactly. I could be going off here. But, is there any highlight you could be, hey, if you're going to test stuff, this is where we really need to see a focused effort of testing?
So I don't think any specific component is going to get a lot. I will say, I know there have been a handful of edge cases related to uploading PNGs. So kind of that media area is always a good one to test. That's also one that interacts with like WordPress interacts with some of the lower system components. And so those can be a little different on every site and every host. And so that's a good one.
Okay.
Generally every part of the post creation process. So if you are uploading images, upload image. If you are editing images, edit those images in WordPress and make sure that it still just works exactly how you expect it to.
Excellent. All right. So let's say worst case scenario, they're testing it and there's a problem, whether there's a white screen of death or, what are some of like the problems that aren't just a white screen of death? Like what are some of the less observable or less obvious problems or bugs that could happen?
So some of the ones that might be a little harder to see might be things like, did the image embed correctly with everything? Did it, like you wrote alt text, is the alt text showing up as expected? Did you write in a different language and now you're seeing, some encoding issues? Did you add emoji and that emoji isn't showing up?
Okay.
And so kind of everything there.
Okay. For let's say like somebody, they're brand new to testing. They haven't done it a lot before. They see something that's like, I'm not sure if that's a bug or not. What's kind of like a good sign like, no, that was a bug and you should report it?
If it worked properly before and doesn't work now. If it is a change in experience, and not something that seems like an intentional change.
Okay.
And you can always jump into the core Slack and ask.
Okay.
Because it might be the case that like, oh no, that button isn't there anymore. It was intentionally moved.
Gotcha.
But it might also be a case of like, nope, no one intended for that to be any different. The fact that it's being seen different, that's a bug.
Gotcha. And so now I'm jumping into Make Slack. I'm going to ask a question. How do I ask a question so that somebody can give me an answer right away rather than a follow-up question?
Well, one, it might not happen right away. We are a global project, and there's not always someone sitting in there waiting at the exact moment. But eventually, someone usually responds. The best is provide as much context as you can. And so if it's a bug that you're seeing in your browser, share what type of browser it is. If it's only test to see, can I replicate this only with a specific plugin? If so, make sure that it's known what that plugin is. There's the WordPress Playground, which is a great way just to test with a completely blank slate. So load that up and look to see, does that, can I still see the problem there? And sharing, more and more information. If it's something on back-end processing, share the information from the site health section of your site about what PHP version, what server software, that can be very helpful as well.
Excellent. Okay. And if somebody's got a program like Loom where they can do a screencast, is that helpful?
Often, yes.
Okay.
So, if you're having problems coming up with the words for it, sharing the pictures, a picture tells 1,000 words, and a video is 26 frames a second, 30 frames a second, so it tells a lot of words.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, excellent. Well, I love this whole painting the picture, and I think the biggest thing that I get from you, Aaron, is there's really no wrong way. There's no terribly wrong way to report a bug. There's a incomplete way to report it. There's potentially a rude way to report it, and you should work to be less of either of those things. But really, at the end of the day, if you see a change that you don't expect, say something so that people can take a look at it and try and fix it.
Yep, and I mean, bring it to our attention. It's much better for us to find out, for the core team to find out about a bug, before it gets released than someone posts on Reddit, 3 months later and complains about why did this thing break? And it's like, well, why didn't you test?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point right there, is that I will see a lot of times people will go on and they'll air their grievances on social media. Maybe they're doing it on purpose and they're trying to just get attention for doing this. I'd like to think that that's not the case. I like to think that they're just used to posting things there. But really, this is what the Make Slack is for. Like, come straight to the source. Tell us what's wrong and somebody can take a look and try and fix it.
Yeah, I mean, this is different than if you're buying a piece of software. WordPress is made by its community. The people that are using or building it are also using it. And also, we just want to have the best possible software that we can for the most number of people that we can.
Excellent. Your final question, we're getting wrapped up here. If there's any companies watching, right, and they've got, let's say, 10 to 100 to 1,000 employees, if they wanted to organize kind of like a bug scrub team or, a bug testing team, are there resources on the Make WordPress site for this to kind of help them organize themselves?
So there is a lot of resources on there. I would also say get in touch with some of the existing committers. If you want to hire someone for a day or two to come and lead an effort like that can be a great way to also contribute back to WordPress.
Wonderful. All right. So everybody out there listening, hire your contributors. They will show you how to do this, how to do lots of testing and make WordPress better for all of us. Aaron, as always, the time flies. This is always great to talk with you and get some really good insights into how WordPress actually gets built. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Please come to my WordPress website, Aaron.
Wonderful. All right, Aaron, till next time, I will think fondly of you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, it's a bonus episode. We're back just for a brief moment here. It is July 18th. If I get my act together, I'm going to get this published today. So July 18th, or June, it's June 18th, sorry.
Yes. June
20th is the cutoff date for WordCamp US speaker submissions. I am procrastinating like the professional that I am. Aaron, it sounds like you're a little bit further ahead of the ball than me. What is your process and how many talks are you planning to submit?
So I will probably end up submitting the max that I can, which is 3.
Okay.
I've already got one that is just waiting for me to hit submit on, that is written and just needs one final review. And then, trying to finalize those last 2. I keep a list of every idea that I have for what could be a good WordCamp talk.
Okay.
And it is a long and ever-expanding list. And sometimes I see someone give a similar talk and I'm like, you know what, that's good enough. I can just remove it. I don't need to be the one that says everything.
Excellent. I don't want you to give away any of your secret sauce. Don't talk about more than you want to talk about. But for the people like me who are like, man, I need to get my submissions in. I'm stuck. What would be a good talk? If it wasn't one of your talks, what would you want to see someone talk about at WordCamp?
Ooh. So there are things that I don't have the experience to talk about. And so those are the things that I would love. I would love to see, some little more businessy talks, I think. Things about how we're making decisions inside a plugin company, for instance. What is, a hosting company that decides they want to sponsor contributors. How are they deciding, what to do there? Don't know if you know anyone that might be good at that.
Very, very on the nose with that one. Well played, sir. All right, I think I have a topic idea to submit. I have a few, actually. So this is really curious to hear because a lot of the times that I will hear feedback about WordCamps is, I don't like a lot of times people who don't go to WordCamps are like, I use WordPress. I know how to use WordPress. I don't necessarily need to learn more about how to use WordPress. And I think what you're talking about here is the practical aspects of, okay, here's WordPress. Here's different ways to make a living doing WordPress, which at the end of the day is kind of the important thing here, right? We need to take care of ourselves some way. And so I really like the idea. I know in the last few years, there's been a lot more showcases showing how businesses are utilizing WordPress. But you're really asking about, diving into the inner workings. How are decisions being made? How does the sausage get made basically at these companies and all of this? So I think that's really fascinating. Thinking back in years past, is there any standout presentation that you saw or even gave yourself that you'd love to see a follow-up on in some sort of a new iteration of?
There's one that I gave a talk at WordCamp DC, the only one that happened, which I believe was 2016 or 2017, and it was on the user system of WordPress, but focused on trying to teach product managers about the capabilities of the user system. And I'd love to kind of do a second version of that at some point and kind of follow it up. If you think about designing actual user systems for complex sites.
Okay. All right. I can dig it. I'd like to see that. I think that, that the interesting part of that is expanding it out of just a blogging site and thinking of it in terms of how a company would actually use it in operational activity. So that's really cool. For people who maybe haven't submitted before and they're, the imposter syndrome, right? That the number one thing that keeps you from hitting that submit button. What are some words of encouragement you have for people who, just they're struggling to hit that submit button?
One, the only way you're going to get accepted is if you submit. Two, I would encourage people, what I do is I send things to my friends and ask them to just read it and tell me what they think. And use your network in the same way. Get a friend to look it over. And then finally, think about what will the people attending this event take away from what I'm presenting. And if you think about how is this going to help them improve their website, improve themselves, improve their company, but just overall, what are the takeaways? And that will help guide if that is a talk worth continuing to write.
Excellent. All right. So at the end of the day, people, use your friends, use your network, figure out, get comfortable with what you're talking about, but then just hit submit. Just, the more the merrier, and, the more diversity we get for these talks just makes the whole event that much better, right? Aaron, thank you so much for this bonus Kinsta Talk session talking about WordCamp US speaker submissions. If you're out there, you're watching this, submit it. If it's after June 20th, I'm sorry, you're done for, but come to WordCamp US. August 20th to 29th. I'm pretty sure I got that right. Good job. Excellent. Aaron, always great to talk to you, man. We'll see you soon.
Great to have you.
All right.
Roger.
Ciao.